Okay, fifth grade. So we're going to be covering these sheets over the next few weeks. I'm going to be doing 2 sheets each week. So, all right, here we go. Let's get started. I have found many errors in this math program, so you really do probably want to follow along in the videos because as I work these problems, I'm finding mistakes, and that's just going to simplify things for you. Okay. I'm also going to be going along, and as we come to certain problems, if there is something you need more practice with, I'm going to be suggesting an IXL skill code so that you can practice more of that skill, because you're going to need all of these skills going into 6th grade math. So we want to try to make sure that you accomplish all of these before moving on to middle school. Okay, so we need to compare these numbers using the greater than and less than symbols. And then it says to order them. Well, we're just going to put the correct symbol in between them. Yes. Now it says that we can use these lines to line them up and compare them, which is exactly what we normally do. So we typically line our decimals up. So we're just going to copy them down first of all, so that we can compare them. All right, so we're going to just look at the first 2 because we need to put a symbol in between there. So comparing these, we always start and we compare right to left, or sorry, left to right. So starting with the ones place, that doesn't help us because they're both the same, so we go next door. Between the 2 and the 6, the 6 is greater, which means that this number that has the 6 needs 2 cookies compared to the other one, which needs 1. So then we put our greater than, less than symbol in there. Remember, the larger number gets 2 cookies. Now, I'm not putting them out here because in a minute I'm going to be comparing this number to this one. So we just put our cookies on the correct side of the dinner plate, and then we connect them to get the right symbol on the plate. Now looking at these 2, which is our bottom 2 numbers, we start on the left, comparing the whole numbers. That doesn't help us because they're both the same. Go next door, the 6 is the greatest. So again, the number with the 6 is going to get 2 cookies, and the number with the 2 is only going to get 1. It does not matter what comes over here because we have to only look at one place at a time. So we're just comparing one place at a time until we find which one is greater or less. Then we connect those cookies. All right. If you need more work on these, your IXL skill code is NSG. Okay. Moving on to this one. It says at work, who worked on project A for this long? 4.5 hours. And then he worked on project B for 2 3/4 hours. It says to draw a picture, write an equation, and solve to find the number of hours he worked on both projects, which means if we're doing these hours and those hours both, we are going to be adding. So to add fractions, let's write our math problem out. We're starting out with 4 1/2, and we are adding 2 3/4. Now we just finished working on some fraction skills on IXL. Remember, whenever we add or subtract fractions, our denominators must be the same. Now, these denominators are different, so we need to get them the same before we can do the adding problem. So we have 1/2 right here, and we need to change that. Remember, we take the smaller denominator, which is the 2, and we have to make it match the 4. So what do I do to a 2 to make it a 4? 2 times what? It's 2 times 2 gives me a 4. And whatever I do to the bottom, I must also do to the top. So that'd be 1 times 2 would be 2. Okay, so I just changed. This is now 4 2/4 instead of 4 1/2. Yes? So now I have a new math problem. 4 2/4 plus 2 3/4. We're going to be adding our whole numbers together first. So 4 plus 2 is 6. Then we add our fractions. 2/4 plus 3/4 is 5/4. Now you know that we cannot have an improper fraction as an answer. So we have to divide out our improper fraction. When the top number is bigger than the bottom, we have to divide that out. Do you remember all of that? We just did these IXL skill codes. So I'm going to do that division right here. I put the top number inside the division house. I divide by the bottom number. Okay, so you get your calculator and you are going to go 5 divided by 4. That gives me a decimal number, but remember, we're dealing with fractions, so I can't write down a decimal. I can only write down what comes in front of the decimal, and then I have to divide out the rest of it. So 1 times 4 is 4. That leaves me with 1 left over. And what do I do with this 1 left over? I simply take it and put it on the top. So my answer is 1 whole and 1/4. That's what I got for this part. Now I already have wholes. So if I am going to have 1 more whole from this, I now have 7 wholes. So I just changed that to 7 whole pies, or 7 whole whatever it is. Oh, it's hours. 7 whole hours and 1/4. So when I got rid of this, I got 1 whole and 1/4. So I added my wholes and I still have the 1/4 left over. So 7 whole hours and 1/4. This is my final answer. Okay, fractions have lots of steps, yes? We had to get our denominators the same, then we had to add our whole numbers, then we had to add our fractions, then we had to simplify that fraction, and it ended up giving us another whole hour than we started. Okay, let's go ahead and let's look. Oh, wait, your IXL skill code for this is 6BH. That's adding and subtracting mixed numbers. Okay, that's more practice with mixed numbers. Prime and composite. It's been a while since we've looked at prime and composite. Remember, if you can make the number multiplying 2 digits together in more than one way, then you've got a composite number. If there's only one way to make that number by multiplying 2 numbers together, then it's prime. So we always start with 1 times 57. That's the first way. 1 times 57 will give me a 57. Then I'm going to try 2. Do you remember when we did this? So you do 57 divided by 2. If it gives you a decimal, then 2 is not a factor of 57. So let's try it again. Let's try 3. 57 divided by 3. Okay, that's a whole number. So 3 times 19 makes 57. Okay, 3 times 19 gives me 57. So automatically, I've got more than one way to make a 57. 1 times 57 and 3 times 19. I don't even have to do any more, because as soon as I can come up with another way, my number is automatically composite. Okay? All right, let's go ahead, and more practice with prime and composites is 8PL. Now, if you go onto IXL and you practice one of these, I will notice it as long as you're logged into IXL first, and I will give you extra dojo points for logging in. And remember, you and your parents can come up with some sort of award system at home for whenever you get to a certain number of dojo points. If you want to go for 50 dojo points and you're going to get a trip to the snow cone place, something like that, to encourage you to keep working on your math and your reading at home. Okay, let's look at the last 4 problems, or the last 3 problems on this sheet. I'm checking my time on the video. Okay, so we have a volume and area and perimeter problem, all 3. So you need your formulas. The formula, what shape is this, by the way, on the bottom? It says, what is the area of the bottom layer? So we need area equals, it's either going to be side times side, or it's going to be length times width. Are these 2 measurements the same? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 7 on the side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5 on that other side. So those are different. So you're going to do length times width. That is going to be 7 times 5. And 7 times 5 is 35. So my area is 35. Perimeter is of the bottom layer. It says the bottom layer, the perimeter. So that means all 4 sides, yes? So this side is 7, that side is 5, that side is also 7, and this side is 5. So if you do all the way around, that's 7 plus another 7 plus 5 and another 5. So you're going to add all of your sides together, okay? So perimeter equals length plus the width plus the other length plus the other width. You're going to work that formula and tell me what your perimeter is, okay? Volume. Volume, if you'll remember, the formula for volume is length times width times height. So your length is 7, your width is 5, and your height is how many layers will fit in the box. How many layers will fit in the box? 1, 2, 3. So your height is going to be 3. So you're going to work that problem out and tell me what your volume is. Okay? You can do those on your own. All right, we've got some coordinate plane practice here. We're going to, it says what points are at these following coordinates. So the X, remember, is the first coordinate and the Y comes second. So the X is 1/2. That would be between 0 and 1. So right here. And the Y is 4. So if I'm here on the X and I go up to the Y is a 4, that's point T. Are we remembering this? This is your X, this is your Y. So the X is 2.5, so you go along, you always start at 0 and go to 2.5, and then you go up to the Y, which is 1.5. So that one is going to be point O. You're going to do the last one by yourself. Okay, over here, they want you to practice plotting these points. 3.5, remember that's half of $1, so that's just a half. So you're doing 3.5. So the X is 3.5, starting at 0. 1, 2, 3.5. So you're going in between 3 and 4. Then you go up to the Y, 1, 2.5. So you're putting it right there in the center. It's not on any of the lines. So we just plotted that point. That one is done. You're going to go do the X is 5, starting at 0. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then go up to 3.5. 1, 2, 3.5. 3.5 is right there. So we've now plotted the first 2. You're going to plot the other 3 on your own. Okay, I have to do 2 separate videos for these pages because they take quite a while to explain. So I'm going to give you another video for the next page.